Well, I Am podcast. My name is Kerry Miller. We are here to give you everything to do with wellness and all things health. And today we've got, this is Mario van Biljon. He is the protein man. We know him as the protein man, but Mario, you have a whole title that goes with you. Hello, welcome to Well, I Am podcast.
Thanks for having us, Kerry. Hopefully I can answer most of your questions and provide some insightful information. Let's see.
So as I said, we know you as the protein man, but what is like your title if you had to write your name down on a piece of paper?
I don't know. I'm not sure I've got a title, entrepreneur. I've been, my passion, let's put it this way, my passion has always been human performance, especially sports.
Okay.
So I qualified as a microbiologist, but I got into performance nutrition, called it sports nutrition, in 1996, 97. And most of my life has been dedicated to nutrition, sports performance nutrition. And as I got older, an increasing interest in the health aspect of it, health and wellness.
You started when you said 1990?
96, 97.
And I'm sure you can agree that since 1996, 1997 to 2024, what is considered to be good for training, what's considered to be cool for supplements has changed remarkably. But the one thing that has stayed the same is protein butts.
Okay.
Protein butts, everyone. Hey, protein butts. So I just want to find out, because obviously I am a woman, but I train. And I grew up hearing about protein, but very much associated it with men and men's training. And then as you get more into just food in general, you understand the concept of protein being your meat, your eggs, almonds, etc. But I've got you here today because for anyone who, let's pretend someone doesn't understand the protein concept at all. What exactly is protein? Why do we need it? And why is it so important for training?
Yeah, that's quite simple. So if we look at the human body, roughly about 70%, 75% of the human body is made up of water. If we had to dehydrate all the water out of our body like a piece of biltong, then 50% of the solid mass of our body is made up of protein. So it's the main structural component of the human body. So from your eyes to your ears to your muscles to your blood to the enzymes in the blood to our bones, 50% of the dry matter of the human body is protein. And as athletes or active individuals, we have a higher than normal requirement for protein. So a sedentary individual has a lower protein requirement than an active individual, and it's very difficult for people that train hard or very active to eat sufficient high quality protein in our diet from whole foods alone. And that's where myself, originally as an aspiring sportsman, understood the value of protein for performance and muscle building, etc. And so I got into the sports nutrition industry out of my own personal interest in supplementation, particularly protein, and the role that it plays in helping an athlete or an aspiring athlete to achieve their goals. So we can't achieve our optimal health nor our optimal performance with inadequate protein intake, and it's very difficult for the average person to, especially nowadays in the modern day diet, to get enough protein in our diet from whole foods alone. It can be done, often with the consumption of too much fats or sugars in the diet, but so that's protein is the main structural. So the long story short is that protein is the main structural component of our body, and we're not going to ever grow optimal hair, nails, muscles, blood without enough protein in our diet.
Okay, so these days, high school girls and guys, they're getting into training. They're really, looking at supplementation, etc. When it comes to protein and protein in your diets, how young is too young to really go the protein route for your diet? And so before we talk about supplementation, food, what are there good proteins? Are there bad proteins? Because you hear the word protein and I just picture like meat on a plate. Are you ever too young to be on a very high protein diet?
No. So one of the misconceptions, unfortunately, in the industry is that and I suppose it's been largely brought about by people like myself who've been in the industry, who've propagated or promoted supplements as these miracle cures to building muscle, for example. So the average person sees a protein supplement as some kind of like drug.
Yeah.
Especially parents, and they're like, oh no, I don't want to take that because there's some like an anabolic of sorts, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, most good quality protein powders on the market, especially nowadays, are mainly just derived from whole foods. So to say that you shouldn't take a protein supplement because you're 12 or 13, that would be like saying don't eat chicken or meat or don't drink milk. So,
but before we even look at supplements, I'm talking about on the plate.
Yeah, so let's put this in perspective. If you're sedentary, to maintain what we call a positive nitrogen balance, in other words, you're not building muscle, but you're not shrinking. So if we're in a negative, what we call a negative nitrogen imbalance, that's a catabolic state.
So negative nitrogen.
So the way we measure as a scientist, measure whether our body is accumulating protein, in other words, building muscle, or we're losing muscle by way of cancer or disease or fasting or whatever, is nitrogen balance. If we're positive nitrogen balance, that means we're retaining more nitrogen than we excrete. If we're in a negative nitrogen balance, that means we're excreting more nitrogen than we consume.
So we want nitrogen.
So we want nitrogen because protein is the only of our macronutrients. We've got carbohydrates, fats, and protein. Of the three macronutrients, carbohydrates, protein, and fats, protein is the only one that contains nitrogen. So when we measure nitrogen balance, we're not getting nitrogen from fat and we're not getting nitrogen from carbohydrates. So the way to measure whether we're getting enough protein is not how much are we consuming enough carbon. Carbon is common in carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen are common in all three macronutrients, but nitrogen is unique to protein.
So then why are we not supplementing nitrogen? Why are people not just like, going to have a nitrogen mask before I go train?
So the word protein is made up of amino acids, and the word amino comes from the amine group, the NH. So you've got a...
Look at Mario with all the knowledge,
you've got to consider the who's watching. So I don't want to get too technical, but proteins have got an amine group. The amine group's got nitrogen in it. So protein is the only macronutrient that contains nitrogen. So to measure, as a scientist, if I want to check whether you are losing muscle or gaining muscle or staying the same, I need to measure your nitrogen balance. So a sedentary person, science will show us that a sedentary person needs about roughly 2/3 of a gram, 3/4 of a gram of protein. Call it 3/4 of a gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So
Okay,
what is your body
let's
weight?
just do that slowly again. So about 3/4 of a gram of protein
per kilo of body weight.
Okay, so
your kid is now 60 kilos.
Okay, let's just call them 100 kgs so it makes the maths easy.
So if a kid is 100 kilos,
yes,
they need to be consuming
75 grams
of protein a day.
That's it.
To maintain...
It's like one small biltong.
Not really, no. So because biltong is... So meat, for example, chicken, is only 20% protein.
What are you telling me?
So it becomes a bit complicated. You need to restart, and this is where you need to educate parents and educate kids. So let's take a kid that's 100 kilos. And I'll say to you, if they consume 75 grams of protein a day, they're not going to be able to build muscle. That's not. They'll stay the sedentary. Same.
Okay.
And they're in a sort of a nitrogen balance equilibrium. We need them to be in a positive nitrogen balance, which means they need to eat
more than 75 grams.
And the more active they are, the more that level goes up. So a highly active sports boy, science will show us, needs about 2.5 to 3 grams of protein per kilogram. So now I take a rugby player that's training. Boys and girls nowadays train hell of a hard. The sport's very competitive. So they're training 4 or 5 times a week, if not more. They're in the gym, etc. Now they need to eat, that 100-kilo boy now needs to eat maybe 250 grams of protein a day.
But now, when I just now said, okay, but that's not even a biltong, and you said, but in chicken it's only 20% protein.
Exactly.
What would one eat then to get that much protein? Like, how do you even? I'm like, my mind is blown. I just thought meat was protein.
No, so now we have to read. So this is where the misconception is. Let's say the guy had to eat 200 grams of protein a day. 200 grams of protein a day. An average egg white has got 4 grams of protein.
Okay, an average egg white is 4 grams of protein. Okay.
Take a whole egg. A whole egg's maybe 6 grams of protein.
It says eggs are good protein.
Very good. As close to perfect as you can get. Maybe whey protein is a little bit better.
Moment for egg love. Okay, so cool. Moment for eggs.
We say in scientific terms, eggs have a biological value of 100%. So it's considered that 100% of the protein is absorbed from eggs. It's highly bioavailable. Yeah, eggs are good. The point I'm trying to make is to consume 200 grams of protein. Let's say you, for example, we won't give away your weight.
70.
So let's say you needed to consume, I told you need to eat 140 grams of protein a day.
Okay.
To get 140 grams of protein from whole foods a day, let's say you were eating only egg whites. You would have to eat, 40, 50 egg whites a day? It's a lot of egg whites. If you're eating chicken, so the average chicken breast, 100-gram chicken breast, has got about 22 grams of protein.
Do you, I'm going to like jump in here, but are you must be free range eggs, and free range chickens? Does that make a difference to our protein?
Not really. It makes a difference to some of the other nutrients, micronutrients, the essential fats and the products and that, but generally no. The protein is protein. So So Kerry, the best thing for a person to do, an aspiring sportsman or a parent, is for to try and learn to read labels. So on the back of every single product that you buy in the supermarket, whether it be packaged products, they typically have what we call a nutritional table at the back. And the nutritional table will detail how much protein, fats, carbohydrates, sugars, etc. per 100 grams and per serving. And as I say, if you look at milk, let's take milk for example. Milk, if you read the nutritional panel on the back of a carton of milk, milk is about 3.5 grams of protein per 100 mils.
Okay.
So now once we start reading the labels and we see, okay, well, milk's got 3.5 grams of protein per 100 mils. If I drink 200 mils, I've consumed 7 grams of protein. Then I go and I look at chicken. I eat a chicken breast and I get another 20 grams there. Then I eat a piece of steak and I get another. So to get up to 200 grams of protein for the day,
that's a lot actually.
It's a lot of food. So you can do it, but it means that if you're highly active and you're very physically active and you've got a high protein turnover in your body, as athletes do or active individuals do, and your protein requirements are higher than a sedentary individual, then to consume sufficient protein from whole foods alone gets challenging. It can be done, but it means that you might need to eat 5-6 meals a day, small little meals, each meal with 20-30 grams of protein. But that's not easy to do, yeah.
So because I know we're going to go on to the supplementation of it, but I just want to stick with the foods for a second, because we were speaking now about the chicken. Does red meat have more protein than chicken, or does it depend on the...
Most meats you can average are roughly the same. So when I say meats, I'm talking about lean meats. I'm not talking now about a pork sausage or a piece of boerewors. I'm talking about a lean cut of meat. So a chicken breast, a lean piece of fillet steak, a piece of ostrich, fish. We can work on anywhere between 20 and 25 grams. So that's roughly, most meats are very similar, 20 to 25 grams of protein per 100 grams of lean cut meat.
And now a question for the vegetarians. Can you get protein from nuts and or other vegetables?
Yeah.
I know that eggs are there, but I know some people don't eat eggs either. And like I said, vegans are people too. So I've heard a lot about like an almond, for example. People like almonds, it's protein. Is that rubbish or is that a real thing? Can you get protein from veggies and nuts?
So in terms of what we call biological value, in terms of proteins are made up of 21 different amino acids, and a high biological value protein has a protein that most closely meets your body's requirements for the ratios and amounts of different amino acids. So in other words, if I gave you a very junk protein, that means that the amino acids that are making it up, the building blocks that make that protein up, don't match your body's requirements as closely as what a high biological value protein source would.
Can you give me an example of what a junk protein would be?
So when I say junk, it's not junk, but let's take soy protein as an example, as a vegetable protein. Soy protein might have a biological value, I'm not sure offhand of, in the 70s. Let's give it a biological value of 75% versus an egg, a biological value of 100. So in other words, if I have 100 grams of soy protein, my body will only absorb and utilize 75% of that. If I have 100 grams of egg protein, my body's going to utilize 100% of that. So to answer, going back to you, plant proteins almost all score lower on the biological value rating system than animal protein. So they're of a lower biological value. In other words, they're not as easily bioavailable, absorbed, digested, and utilized by the body as animal protein. So animal proteins are of higher quality. So the one way of getting around that is you combine plant sources. So let me give you an example. Peas. Peas are low in the amino acid methionine.
And what now?
Okay, so proteins are made up of amino acids.
Yeah.
21 different amino acids. And examples of amino acids are leucine, isoleucine, valine, tryptophan, glutamine. Some of these things you would have heard of, some we aren't. But there's 21 different amino acids.
I know. It's for everyone watching. Okay. I mean, obviously, I know all the things.
Yeah, so it's important that we get a complete array of amino acids in our diet, because our bodies need 21 different amino acids to create the person that sits in front of me. Your body was created in the last 6 to 12 months out of the food that you put in your mouth over those 6 to 12 months. And the building blocks of your body are mainly protein. And the quality of that protein, the quality of the protein you put into your body determines the quality of your body at the end of the day. So if you eat a muffin and coffee breakfast, then over 6 months you build a muffin and coffee body. Because that's all that your body can use. So the point I'm going back to vegetable proteins, if we combine, let's say peas, they're low in methionines, one of those 21 amino acids, it's like slow, so it doesn't have as much of methionine as your body requires. Then you take now rice. Rice is higher in methionine, but lacks lysine.
Well, hold on, but does rice come as a protein?
Well, it's got protein in it. So, or even even your carbohydrates like potatoes and sweet potatoes and rice have small amounts of protein in them.
What?
Small amounts of protein in them. So not as high. So like I say, the highest quality proteins and the proteins with the highest amount of protein in them is meats.
Okay.
As we go to vegetables, so vegetables are lower in grams of protein per 100 grams, and they're lower in the quality of the protein. But we can get around that by combining different plant sources together to get a more complete amino acid profile. But then we have to eat a lot of them to get that. So it's very difficult, I'll be honest, and no anti-veganism here at all. I'm just
saying it's difficult.
I'm a microbiologist and straight from the facts. Very difficult to eat enough, number one, and enough high-quality proteins from a plant-based diet. The vegans will come and argue and say, and that's not true. And that, well, I've been working with athletes from Olympic level down to schoolboy level for almost 30 years now, and I can tell you it's very difficult. There are examples of vegan athletes that have succeeded or built muscle.
But that can also be their DNA, their structure,
genetics, etc. Yeah, so it's very difficult. So yeah, long story short is plant protein have got protein, lower amounts, and generally lower quality.
Okay, so now we've got people that have realized, I want to train, I want to make sure that my nitrogen levels are up, and I know I'm not getting it on my plate. So now I'm looking to supplement. So we're going to go into supplementation now, and I hope that you can answer all these questions for me. I want to talk about how we choose our supplements. I want to talk about when do we take protein. Are you ever too young to take protein? Are you ever too old to take protein? If you're pregnant, can you take protein? What time of the day do we take protein? So let's go now. I've realized I want to start training. I don't know what to do. And if I look at the shops, I go to a discount, my Clicks, a health store, there is protein everywhere, but I don't know what to take. I don't know how to choose and what is right for me. Are men and women different? So let's go. Protein 101. Let's begin. How do we know what protein to take, where to look? What are we looking for?
Yeah, so it's a bit difficult. I have a disdain for mechanics, so I don't want to learn to fix my car engine or service my car. And most people, when I start talking about technical side of nutrition, they don't want to hear too much detail. They don't want to become a nutritionist, so they just want the simple facts. But it's, to be honest, it's very difficult to really excel health-wise and physically if you don't understand a little bit. So you do need to do a little bit of homework yourself. First thing I tell everyone, first understand, take your body weight.
Okay.
Are you very active? Are you a sports person? Are you looking to gain lean muscle, etc.? If so, I don't recommend you consume anything less than...
Is it the 75%?
Yeah, 2 to 2.5 grams. So my minimum recommendation for physically active sports person, a person just looking to gain muscle, lose fat, maintain lean muscle, would be somewhere between 2 and 2.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So the first step anyone does, take your body weight, your kid's body weight, times it by 2 to 2.5. That's the range of daily protein.
Take your body weight, times it by 2 to 2.5. Okay.
So my youngster... 16 years old, plays a lot of sport, 70 kilos times 2 to 2.5 is what, 140 to 210,
yeah,
roughly. Okay, so now I say, Joshua, you need to be eating 175 grams of protein a day. Then the next step, so that's the first step.
So now we're looking for Josh, 16-year-old male in school, wants to build lean muscle. So we're looking for 175 grams.
Not pick up injuries, because bear in mind, if we don't... So see protein as supplying the amino acids that build your body. Like the bricks build a brick wall, protein supply the bricks that build the brick wall. If I hammer away at the brick wall, which is what exercise does, or physical activity does, and the harder you train and the more physically active, the more you hammer away at the brick wall, the more you break out bricks.
And then you don't have bricks to refill. So I hear you.
So the body's natural response when the brick wall is bashed down is to want to build that brick wall bigger, but this time layer an extra layer of bricks down so that it's not as susceptible to that level of...
Like a reinforced brick wall. Brilliant.
And then you got to go and you train and you exercise, or you're in the gym or you're on the sports field, you break it down again. Your body will continue to lay down extra layers of bricks until that muscle is strong enough to endure the level of training that you...
Can you ever have too much protein?
Yeah, your body will then just convert it mainly to carbohydrates and waste products, urea and ammonia. And you'll then, if you're getting too many carbs in your diet, it's calories. You'll store it as body fat.
Okay.
So too much protein ends up as an expensive form of carbohydrates.
Sure.
So you don't want to eat unnecessary. Two reasons you don't want to eat too much protein. It's expensive and unnecessary, and puts unnecessary stress on your body, and converts to as I say, body fat. But it's very difficult to eat too much protein. The only way you can eat too much protein as a physically active sports person or person training the gym is to be consuming a shitload of dairy and meat, etc., and then supplementing with protein on top of that.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's the typical person's not going to overeat in protein. It's very difficult.
Okay, so let's go back to our 16-year-old sportsman. We know that he's 70 kgs. We're looking for 175 grams of fat, but we need to supplement.
Yeah. So 175. So now, Josh, you need to eat 175 grams of protein a day. Can you do it? Can the listener listening, can they do that from a whole food diet alone? Because, well, I've got nothing against if you can do it from whole food, so I'm not advocating that you have to have supplements. But when you do the maths and you start looking and you see, okay, it becomes very difficult to... So I started out as an athlete training in the gym. I wanted to be a professional cricketer. Then I changed to bodybuilding later on. I became a...
Wow, well, you should have cricket. What happened?
Possibly, yeah. Possibly, yeah. No, so what happened is I started my own business. And when you play cricket, the hours that you train are dictated by the team, especially at a professional level.
Of course.
And with your own business where I was working the hours I was, it's a lot easier to train in the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. You can't do your cricket training with a team at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I could train at 5 in the morning, be out of the gym by 6 and still work until midnight on the business.
So you had to make a
choice. So I ended up training more in the gym than practicing cricket, and then slowly I built more muscle, and then you, as a youngster, you start building a little muscle, and then the attraction of... the bodybuilding attraction kicks in.
Oh, you liked how it looked, eh?
Yeah.
You liked how it looked.
So then bodybuilding took over and I became a competitive bodybuilder. And as I say,
hold on, did you have to do those super tans?
Yeah.
Did you? We're like, your teeth look so white, and you were like in a pink G-string, basically.
My wife's done that 100 times.
Cute picture of Mario when he was training, thanks.
We've done that for many, many years.
Okay, yes, I know we're going off topic now.
Yeah,
but.
so I quickly found out as an aspiring bodybuilder who's trying to eat now 300 grams of protein a day, because as a bodybuilder trying to build muscle, and you're in the gym twice a day, especially pre-contest, training extremely hard at a much higher intensity.
The brick wall is getting hammered.
Hammered. Now my protein requirement is not 200 or 250, it's 300 grams at that level that I was training and competing at. And then 300 grams, when you look at chicken and you see chicken breasts and egg whites lined up all day long, you just can't consume that amount of protein. So that's when protein supplements come in. So going back to my youngster Joshua, you need to eat 170 grams of protein a day. When I show him what it is in whole foods, it's a lot. So, but hang on, you can have this protein drink and maybe a protein shake for breakfast mixed into a smoothie, and suddenly 40 or 50 grams of your protein is taken care of for the day. And then you only have to eat another 100 odd from food.
Okay, so the thing is though, like I know, for example, this brand, this is the Sports RX, right?
Correct.
I know, this is a good brand because you've done the work, you've done the... How do you know when you go and you find this can in the fridge that this is, because it might say 10 grams or whatever of protein on the back, but how do I know it's a good quality product? Because like I said, and I don't want to name brands, but I've heard people come to me before and say, don't use that brand. They're not a good brand. I'm like, okay, but how do you know that? How do you know if it's a good protein, if it just says protein 10 grams on the back?
Sure. Yeah, it's a difficult one. And bear in mind, I've been in this industry. Fortunately, I was part of the pioneering process of the sports supplement industry. I think I introduced whey protein into South Africa in
seriously
1999 or whatever. Yeah, so
that's quite a statement to make, for real.
Creatine, whey protein. I can name 30 different things that I've introduced into the South African market. Yeah, so just because it's out of my passion for the industry, and so I was always at the cutting edge of what was happening in sports performance science, nutritional science. So as I say, under my brand Muscle Science that I had in partnership with a ex-partner of mine, Brett, we introduced whey protein to the South African market around 1999, I'm guessing, 98.
So actually, let me stop you there, because earlier I said let's put a pin on it, and we're here now, so we might as well. Whey protein, all I know is that the guys love it. When you go to some of the places, you can add a scoop of whey protein for an extra whatever. And I know that it says allergen cow's milk. So what is whey protein, and why whey protein over like a meat protein?
Yeah, so I want to answer that question. I just quickly want to briefly answer your previous thing. How do parents or anyone know what's quality or not? So it's, bear in mind, when the industry was in its infancy, there was very little self-regulation amongst your industry leaders like Dis-Chem and Clicks and Wellness Warehouse and etc. Nowadays, the industry is very tightly, not really necessarily tightly regulated by the SAPRA, South African Health Products Association, but very tightly regulated by the responsible retailers.
Okay.
So they don't, in the old days, I must admit, there were a lot of brands that went around in the late 90s and early 2000s and sold a lot of junk and made claims on labels that were not factual, etc. A lot of that has been sifted out mostly, and if you buy products nowadays from a reputable retailer that self-regulates. They've got their own self-regulatory departments. A Clicks, a Dischem, most of your big reputable pharmacies, health shops, wellness warehouses, etc., they're very pedantic about you meeting label claims, etc. So when you go to some of the smaller independent retailers, I've got to be careful because some of them might get offended because there are a lot of reputable ones. But some of the more, I don't know, dodgy guys around, there are guys selling brands that are not as reputable and that maybe not as trustworthy. But any parent or any person that's shopping, it's very easy nowadays to have social media wasn't around in the old days, so nowadays just quick to see on social reviews, etc.
Because I do feel, like Joshua's got you, and if he says, "Dad," or you can help him, but there's going to be a 16-year-old boy like Joshua who's only got a mom. Yeah. And he wants to go, and mom wants to help her son, but she literally has no idea. And so maybe Josh is finding out from a friend who's finding out from something on TikTok, and next thing you know, they're buying something that's just not good for him.
Yeah, so very difficult. You need to find people like myself, and there are others like myself in the industry. Get hold of them, chat to them. The parents need to call them, chat to them. I mean, someone like myself is not that hard to get hold of.
Are you on Instagram? Like, how would someone get hold of? What's your Instagram handle? Your name on Insta?
That's probably just Mario van Biljon, I'm guessing.
Probably just, okay, we'll find out. We'll put it up,
On Facebook, on Instagram, on my email address and phone numbers. If you just Google, anyone would find it. So, there are people like myself and you can ask and get that kind of information, and there's some reputable opinion leaders. So just do your homework, and then you'll find. But as I say, a lot of the shit from the old days has been filtered out through the regulation or self-regulation of reputable retailers in the South African market. So I'm more confident in the quality of supplements nowadays than I was in the past. That being said, parents must still be careful because proteins I've got no problem with. But there are still a lot of stimulant-based fat burners that are around, and that I wouldn't be recommending for kids. But today we're talking about protein.
Yeah.
And in general, protein is most of the big brands around are reputable and doing making good quality proteins. Coming back to whey protein.
Yes. Take a breath.
Yeah, take a breath, yeah. So whey protein, so again, and this coming back from what you had previously said, we mustn't view protein supplements as medicines, or can my 16-year-old take this or not? That you ask about Disprin or paracetamol or whatever, but protein supplements are proteins. They come from. It's like asking, can I have whey protein? I understand it sounds. You're
not going to put it in a baby's bottle. Or could you?
Well, you could, because mother's milk is mainly as whey protein.
We're not suggesting you put it into baby's bottles. Yeah. I'm just saying.
No. So, but if you had to buy a formula is made up from largely whey protein.
Ooh, for real?
Yeah, so mother's milk. Any lactating mammal, human or whether, has feeds the infant milk. Milk has got two proteins in it, which plays different roles in the body. One is casein, is what we make cottage cheese or out of, and the other one is whey protein. Whey. So milk protein is made up of whey protein and casein. Of the two, when they go into the stomach, casein curdles in the acidic environment of the study, in the stomach, curdles and coagulates, and then therefore takes longer. Cottage cheese in the stomach takes longer to break down and digest. So it gives a more sustained release into the bloodstream. Whey protein, on the other hand, is very soluble in liquid. In the stomach, it goes into solution very quickly and is absorbed quickly into the bloodstream. So they have two different roles.
If someone is lactose intolerant, can they have whey protein?
Yeah, a good quality whey. So what's happened in the dairy industry is scientists have found ways of taking milk and then filtering the whey protein and the casein out of the milk, either combined as what we call total milk protein, or separating the casein and separating from the whey and then separating those two out. So if it's a good, highly filtered whey protein, the amount of lactose in it is very low. Take this. I mean, you'll have less than a gram of lactose. So a good, high-quality whey protein typically is very low in lactose, particularly your whey protein isolates, your premium whey proteins, and they are suitable for 99.9% of lactose intolerant people. There are the odd lactose intolerant individual that 0.1 gram upsets them, but most people can tolerate whey proteins, provided you don't mix it with milk, obviously.
So whey protein, if you were going to, again, let's go back to our 16-year-old, and then also maybe a woman in her 40s who's training and wants to supplement with the protein, would you suggest the whey protein is the way to go?
Yeah, whey. So I mentioned to you biological value. Biological value is an indication of how much of that protein is absorbed.
Yes, soya was 75, eggs 100. What's whey?
So when egg was assigned 100%, backed by scientists in who knows when, whey protein was never around in those days. Well, whey protein was always there in milk, but there was no way of separating it out. So we never knew what the biological value of whey protein was because no one thought of measuring whey protein. It so happened then whey protein was methods were developed to filter whey from milk. We now find that whey protein has a biological value of over 100.
What?
And you say, how can that be? Because
Overachiever?
if an egg is 100 and that means 100% of it is absorbed and assimilated and utilized by the body, how can you have more than 100? Well, egg was never 100. Egg was, in science, we always assign...
Should be like a 93 maybe.
Yeah, so egg was coming out at 93 or 94. So we said this is the gold standard as scientists. We're going to assign it a rating of 100 and use that as the yards to control, to measure everything against, okay? And then egg was assigned 100. Anything, if 70% is 70% as good as egg, a biological value, you know what I'm saying? So now whey protein comes along and, well, it's 108 or 110, whatever. So now what do we do? So whey protein is the highest biological value protein known to man, higher than eggs.
Just random. Have you tasted those protein bars? The ones that the Well I Am ones that came out, the Beauty Gen ones. Have you tasted them yet?
No,
are they not ridiculous?
How
good are those?
No, they're very nice.
Obsessed. Could you have too many of those? Could I have too many of those?
Because bear in mind that's not pure protein, so it's a combination of protein and carbs. So
say nothing else is perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfection.
So the main protein in that is because that's under the Beautygen brand where we have a focus on collagen, which is protein. So whey protein is a protein.
Oh, collagen's
Collagen is a
protein.
Okay. So that's another animal protein, collagen, and where that bar is being developed as a source of collagen.
So then does collagen then contribute to your daily protein?
Correct. So the problem with collagen, there's a benefit, there's a pro and con with collagen.
Okay, tell me.
The con is that its biological value is not very high. So in other words, if we only ate collagen in our diet, I don't know what the biological value is, 70 odd, I think, as well.
Okay, so it's below
like,
soy there.
like soy or whatever. So it's not particularly, and the reason being, it lacks certain amino acids.
Okay. I hear you.
But the pros of collagen is that it's particularly high in 3 amino acids, proline, hydroxyproline, and glycine. Okay, so those 3 amino acids, particularly hydroxyproline and proline, are very unique to collagen. So
I think we need to get you back for a whole collagen episode. I'll tell you that
that's a good
much.
idea.
That has to happen.
So what happens in our modern day diets, we don't eat as much of those amino acids, particularly proline and hydroxyproline, as we would have in a Paleolithic or hunter-gatherer diet.
Stage,
in those days, we would have devoured the whole entire animal from the gristle to the cartilage on the end of the bone. Because
the marrow and
you got to make use of. So in today's diet, we don't. We eat this clean little chicken breast or whatever. So we don't consume in the modern day diet as much collagen. Therefore, we don't supply our bodies with as much proline, hydroxyproline, and potentially glycine as an example, as we would have on an old hunter-gatherer diet.
Okay.
So collagen has come to the fore because it supplies, while it's not a great protein source as in biological value, it does supply amino acids that we don't get a hell of a lot of from traditional modern day diet.
I see. Okay, but we have to pause the collagen because I'm telling you we need to do a whole thing on that because there's so many collagen. But I want to, so going back to our protein, so we've got our whey protein. We've said already that if you're looking for a supplement, most stuff on the shelves these days are going to be pretty decent. Taking a drink versus a powdered into a meal or a smoothie, is it just your taste, I guess? I mean, is it up to you?
So if I'm buying a protein supplement, there's 3 things I'm going to look at as a consumer or a parent that's buying for my kids. The reputation of the brand, do a little bit of homework. Is it a reputable brand? Have they been along quite a while? Are the people behind it easily contactable? Can you chat to them? Can you phone them? Can you email them? Are you going to get a response?
Is it true, like most things, if you buy cheap, you buy twice? Like, are you looking at something that's a little bit at the top end when it comes to pay? Or can you get a less expensive protein that's still a decent quality?
So in the old days, there was this, because South Africa was a bit behind in technology when I got into the industry, and that's why I started Muscle Science, is that in those days, the only really good brands around were being imported from America. Okay. So I started Muscle Science as a brand to try and make good, decent quality products locally at a more affordable price. Bear in mind, our raw material, all source ingredients at the same price. It's just the manufacturing costs of American brands that are very high. So in the old days, there was a perception, which unfortunately has persisted to today, that because a product is 2,000 Rand, it must be superior quality. Well, it's 2,000 Rand because it's $20, $30 or whatever, and
exchange rates and shipping,
import duty, 20% import duty, etc. So you absolutely can get more affordable local products of equivalent quality to the top American brands nowadays. Still not cheap. I mean, no supplements, protein in general is not cheap. When you buy meat or eggs or whatever, it's not cheap. So find a reputable brand, number one. Do your research, contact the manufacturer or the owners of the brand, find out who they are. not difficult to do nowadays with the internet. Then the second thing is look at what you're getting on the label, because a lot of products are sold as a protein powder, and then when you read, it's got, okay, what is a protein powder? Because you get a mass builder and then you get a protein powder. A mass builder might have per 100 grams 80 or 90 grams of carbs and only 10 grams of protein.
Oh shit! Okay.
So you might buy a 5 kilo tub and say, oh well, this 5 kilo tub is 300 or 400 rand. But the 5 kilo tub doesn't have much protein in it. It's filled mainly with carbohydrates, which serve their purpose for someone wanting calories. But if it's purely protein that you want, look at how many grams. A good quality protein is 75 grams or more per 100 grams.
And what is the price point you should be looking at? I mean, I know you don't know all, like maybe all, but if for a decent quality protein, one of those tubs.
A good quality protein somewhere in the market at the moment. For a kilo of a very, very high quality protein, you anywhere between 400 and 600 odd
for 1 kg.
For a kilo, yeah.
And then when it comes to protein, is it one of the supplements that you need to take definitely in the morning or definitely before you train or at night time only? Is it time specific or not really?
It's better to have a balanced intake of protein throughout the day. Or that being said, the body's not that stupid. I mean, if you have protein in the morning which lacks a certain amino acid, and that amino acid is incorporated into the protein you have at night, your body has ability to pull the amino acids throughout the day from the different protein sources, combine them as it needs later in the day. So at the end of the day, your body will work it out. But it is the optimum, it's best to be consuming protein every 3.5 hours maximum. If you're a really high performance athlete or a bodybuilder, maybe every 2 or 2.5 hours. So every 3 hours during the day, a small little stack that incorporates some high quality protein. So that gives you probably 4 or 5 meals a day.
So all these guys and girls that I see just before gym, they got their shakers. They're like, that's my protein shake before I train. That's not necessary.
Yeah,
really.
No. So personally, I prefer not to have a protein shake before I train. Some people are different. My personal take on that is that when you consume protein before exercise, any form of exercise, the protein sitting in your stomach and your body is preferentially diverting blood flow to the intestinal lining to absorb the nutrients of that meal. When you exercise or run or play rugby or in the gym, you want blood flow to go to the muscles
not to digestion.
And not to digestion. So the better time to take a protein would be immediately after training, because that's when it kickstarts the recovery process. So the two most important times of the day for me to take protein would be one in the your breakfast.
I thought you said 1 in the morning. I thought you set an alarm for midnight. It's protein time.
One would be in the morning. If your sole goal is now not starving yourself to lose weight, if you're wanting to build muscle, lean muscle, etc., you want to break fast with a good quality source of protein. So overnight we fasted for 8 hours or 10 hours, whatever you haven't eaten. So the amino acids flowing through our bloodstream and our amino acid pools in our body is depleted. We want to get back into a positive nitrogen balance with a consumption of protein, with a good protein for breakfast. And then after training, because after training, again, we've gone and hammered that brick wall with a hammer, damaged the brick. Your body's now saying, please give me quickly some more bricks to start the recovery process so I can patch the wall and hopefully make it a bit thicker and stronger. So after training, a protein shake or a source of easily digestible protein, and the same in the morning.
And even on the days if you're not training, so let's say someone takes a Sunday off, you still have that protein on the Sunday, the same amount of protein, even if you're not going to the gym.
Yeah, so your protein requirements, I would say, are as equally important to be consumed on non-training days as training days, because bear in mind, a lot of the recovery that actually happens
on the off day.
Okay. So that's when a lot of the recovery is happening, and that's when it's important to keep that protein intake high.
Just 2 things quickly. The one is pregnancy and protein. Do you up your protein if you're pregnant? Keep it the same? Stay away from it? No,
so I wouldn't stay away from it. I would say that your protein requirements are possibly a little bit more even when you're pregnant, because you've got to feed the baby. You've got to feed the baby, particularly afterwards when you're lactating or breastfeeding. So good quality protein and sufficient protein intake is particularly important, because at the end of the day, your breast milk is made up of casein and whey, and you're giving off that every single day, so you need to be replacing that. So particularly when you're breastfeeding or lactating or whatever, you need to make sure that your protein intake is adequate, especially high quality protein. You want the quality of protein you're feeding the infant to be high quality as well, and that comes basically from your body, and your body's proteins come from what you eat. So very important for pregnant and lactating women. And
something you mentioned just now, you were talking about, the protein intake you want if you are gaining lean muscle mass or you upping your weight, which a lot of males mainly want to do. I wish that everyone watching this was on such a good health kick as you are, and but to be fair, a lot of people aren't, and they might be watching this about to start a health kick and maybe wanting to lose weight. What would your ratio of protein be if you are a bit chunky, on the chunky side, and you wanted to slim?
Yeah, so I would still keep the protein at the same level, because when you're dieting, what's going to happen is you're going to create a calorie deficit. The only way to lose body fat is to create a calorie deficit. We don't want to create a calorie deficit from protein, because if you do that, then your body will use muscle tissue as a source of energy. So you want to keep the protein intake the same as what I recommended, but then you would drop your calories more primarily from fats and carbohydrates, which you don't have much of a need for. They're not structural building material. So keep the protein. If you're dieting, pay particularly interest in the amount of protein that you're consuming and the quality of protein to maintain lean muscle, and then just start off by cutting out the fats, particularly saturated fats, and carbs, particularly refined sugars.
Okay.
Refined carbs, yeah.
And there's a brand, SportRx. I didn't even know that you were a big part of this. I learned about SportRx. I was dating a rugby player, and he started using the brand, loved the brand. His friends started using the brand, loved the brand. I see this can in front of me. It's rather delicious, actually, SportRx as well. Tell me a little bit, what is this protein drink, SportRx? How do we find out more?
Yeah, so SportRx is a brand that falls under the Well I Am umbrella of products. You can go to the Well I Am website, or you can go to SportRx website. On those websites, you'll also find inquiry buttons or email addresses. So if there's anything technical, you can always, or any questions that anyone's got, they can always ask. A lot of those questions will come through to me. I do my best to answer them within a day. So that's your best bet to get more information for anyone listening. But SportRx in a nutshell is, as I've got older, I mean, in the old days, my direction was very performance orientated, and I worked with like Olympic athletes and Springbok athletes, and wherever you take a top level athlete and you tell them, listen, if you take this, you're going to win the gold medal at the Olympics in 8 weeks' time, but you might die in the next 6 months afterwards. 80%,
but I got gold.
80% of them will do it, you know. So that's the mindset of a high performance athlete. But as you get a bit older, like myself, and health and longevity become more important, you start looking at other factors other than just performance.
Yeah.
So the SportRx brand was born out of a desire to try and combine performance with health as well. So we try to create with SportRx as clean label brand as possible.
Nice.
So where possible, avoiding artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners.
When I'm looking at this, it's like free from sugar, free from fat, free from lactose, zero carbs. I mean, obviously you couldn't mix this with like a vodka, right? That would be a bad choice, hey?
Interesting enough, I had a meeting with a global dairy supplier last week, and Mark and I were given a bottle of vodka, not that I drink, and the vodka was, funny enough, believe it or not, distilled from Whey.
No.
So it's a new trend that's happening overseas, is that the guys are using Whey liquor from the dairy industry and fermenting it and producing alcohol. Yeah, but no, this is... So
you're telling me I can get my protein from shots? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know you didn't say that, but I mean, because I'm looking at this now, 20 grams of protein. This obviously, like your 16-year-old could take this.
Correct, yeah. So my youngster, as I say, is highly active in sports. He's fortunate enough to have been selected for various provincial sports teams.
Congrats, Dad.
Yeah. So and a couple of things I make sure he does. He gets enough vitamins every day.
Yeah.
He gets enough omega-3 essential fats every day. And thirdly, as importantly as the previous two, enough protein in his diet. So he typically will start off his day with a smoothie, which his mom makes with oats or Future Life, whatever, with some bananas, and then she adds whey protein in there and some ice cubes and milk, whatever. So he fortifies his morning breakfast with whey protein. He might drink one of these during the course of the day. That's how he gets his 150, 160 grams of protein. So protein, something like this, a ready-to-drink protein drink like this just helps you to get in the protein levels that we mentioned earlier a lot easier and more conveniently than from eating 7 egg whites.
And it's yum.
Yeah.
It's flippin' delicious.
100%.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It's like so much. Learned so much. I know that there's probably a lot of other questions. And if someone's got a question, I said just write in the comments below. Any questions you have, we'll get back to you. Mario has said he will even speak to you directly. So if you are watching this and you do have a child or someone at home that's needing more information, Mario's offered his services to you. So feel free. You can also go on to www.welliam.co.za. Everything is there. You can get your products there. And again, any questions at all, there is nothing you can't ask. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
Have a protein-filled day.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks. Yeah, awesome.